The entire United States was stunned when the trial concluded with a life sentence for Mike Wolfe, the beloved face of the reality TV show American Pickers. The man who had traveled across the roads of America in search of rare antiques is now facing a path with no way back. His crime, the murder of his longtime companion, Fritz, not only shocked the television industry, but also left a deep scar in the hearts of millions of loyal viewers. From an icon of passion for collecting and cultural heritage, Mike Wolfe is now etched in history as a traitor, a liar, and a manipulator. Goodbye to all of you. His final words in the courtroom marked the end of a glorious era, opening the darkest chapter in a story once hailed as the American dream. Do you believe this is the deserved outcome for Mike Wolfe? If so, leave a 1. If not, comment a 0. Your opinion is very important and could offer new perspectives on this story. Feel free to share your emotions, thoughts, or theories in the comments below. Don't forget to enjoy the full video to understand the shocking details of this case. And if you find it interesting, make sure to hit that subscribe button to support the channel. I'll be releasing many more exciting videos soon. Once a familiar face on television, famous for traveling everywhere in search of valuable antiques, Mike Wolfe has now fallen into an unimaginable tragedy. The standout star of American Pickers has been sentenced to death for the murder of his longtime companion, Fritz. And in his final moment, just before the heavy prison door slammed shut behind him, all he could utter was a cold, haunting farewell. Goodbye forever. A brutal murder plan. His close friend, Fritz. Shocking news from the United States that left millions of viewers stunned. Mike Wolfe. The familiar face of American Pickers was suddenly handcuffed and escorted away. Initially, most people believed the incident was related to the common disputes in the world of antique collecting, or perhaps the ongoing tensions with History Channel during business dealings. However, the shocking and horrifying truth was soon brought to light. Wolfe was arrested in connection with the death of his longtime companion, Fritz. In a far more complex situation than initially reported following Fritz's death, Mike Wolfe, his former co-star, posted a sorrowful message on Instagram, expressing his grief over the loss of the American Picker star. In the post, he shared, "With a broken heart, I share with you that Frank passed away last night. I had the opportunity to know Frank for more than half of my life, and what everyone saw on screen is exactly what I experienced in real life. A dreamer who was both funny and sensitive. Even when the cameras were off, Frank was always himself." Those words, seemingly sincere and sorrowful, when contrasted with the horrifying reality that Wolfe is accused of causing Fritz's death, suddenly became eerily fake and chillingly suffocating. Beneath the public display of grief, people couldn't help but shudder and wonder who wrote those words, attempting to cover up an unspoken crime. As the praises of friendship and loss were sung, one couldn't help but wonder if the suspect ever felt a moment of deep regret inside. Initially, investigators determined that Fritz's death was due to long-term complications from a stroke, alluding to the persistent medical issues following a prior cerebrovascular accident. His medical records also indicated that he was suffering from cerebrovascular disease and aortic stenosis, two chronic conditions that weakened blood circulation. However, a shocking revelation soon surfaced inside Fritz's home. The police discovered an empty pill bottle with faint fingerprints matching Wolfe's. Investigators had to use sophisticated forensic DNA techniques to uncover the hidden truth. No longer considered a natural death, Fritz's death was now classified as a premeditated murder. The cold, clinical findings of the autopsy report confirmed that Fritz's body contained a lethal dose of drugs far beyond the safe threshold. Clear evidence showed that he had been forced to overdose, and the prime suspect was none other than Mike Wolfe. According to prosecutors, this was not an unfortunate accident, but a meticulously calculated scheme. Wolfe's secret act of poisoning his trusted friend by slipping drugs into his drink was so cruel that some could only exclaim, "A demon in human form." Although many fans believed that the tension between the two main stars of American Pickers was just a stunt to boost viewership, the reality was far more sinister. Wolfe was arrested and is now facing serious murder charges. Prosecutors described his actions as a cruel act of revenge stemming from jealousy and greed. Another shocking detail emerged. Wolfe was arrested after a member of the American Pickers production crew led the police to Fritz's house, where his body was discovered. Iowa State Police conducted a thorough investigation, and evidence, including Wolfe's fingerprints on the pill bottle and suspicious messages sent to Fritz, provided enough grounds to charge Wolfe with first-degree murder. The turning point in the investigation into Frank Fritz's death came when medical experts discovered clear inconsistencies in the initial toxicology report. Although the cause of death was initially stated as complications from a stroke, a detailed autopsy revealed a horrifying truth. The prescription drugs found in Fritz's system were far higher than what had been prescribed by his doctor. This alarming discrepancy immediately raised red flags for investigators, especially since Fritz had been recovering under strict medical supervision regarding his medication regimen. Ultimately, the substance found in lethal concentrations in Frank Fritz's body was fentanyl, a powerful opioid. Fentanyl is notorious for its extreme potency, with even a small amount capable of causing death quickly. The discovery of fentanyl in Fritz's system immediately raised suspicions, as this drug was not part of his prescribed medication following his stroke. With his medical history documented and his treatment plan closely monitored, the possibility that Fritz had self-administered a fatal dose of fentanyl was nearly impossible. He was in the process of recovering, surrounded by family and healthcare professionals closely monitoring his recovery, making it highly unlikely and inconsistent with his condition and treatment plan that he would have consumed such a dangerous drug on his own. In this context, investigators focused on individuals who had close contact with Fritz in his final hours, and Mike Wolfe quickly became the prime suspect. As previously revealed, Wolfe frequently visited Fritz's home, providing the perfect opportunity to carry out the poisoning without raising suspicion. Notably, the presence of fentanyl in Fritz's system coincided suspiciously with evidence collected from Wolfe's internet search history. Prosecutors demonstrated that Wolfe had previously researched undetectable poisons and ways to stage a death resembling a stroke. This troubling coincidence further strengthened the argument that Wolfe had premeditated the crime and intentionally chose fentanyl as the weapon. All these factors, the lethal amount of fentanyl in Fritz's system, the implausibility that Fritz would have self-administered such a dangerous drug, Wolfe's easy access to Fritz, and the suspicious searches for poisons and ways to stage a stroke came together to form a chilling portrait of a deliberate murder rather than a tragic accident. The findings from the autopsy report provided a solid foundation for the Iowa State Police to officially reclassify the investigation as a murder case, with Mike Wolfe as the primary suspect. The Iowa State Police quietly conducted a thorough investigation, focusing on all individuals who interacted with Fritz in his final moments, including Wolfe. What they uncovered would astonish even the most seasoned detectives: $2 million and the tragedy of a murderer. Security footage obtained from the peaceful neighborhood where Frank Fritz lived inadvertently captured a crucial detail, a subtle clue that would prove to be damning. Mike Wolfe's car was seen at Fritz's house late at night, just about 3 hours before the emergency call was made. During this time, as the night fell and everyone was fast asleep, this appearance raised major suspicions, especially given that everyone knew the relationship between Wolfe and Fritz was extremely tense at that point. By early morning, it was Mike Wolfe himself who called 911. His voice was filled with worry as he claimed he had just stopped by to visit an old friend and found Frank Fritz lying unconscious and unresponsive. On the surface, the call seemed like it came from genuine concern, but for investigators it carried unusual undertones. Could this have been a carefully calculated move to create a perfect alibi and control the narrative from the very first moment? When the police and medical personnel arrived at the scene, Mike Wolfe appeared deeply saddened, with rumors even suggesting that he cried. This display of sorrow seemed aimed at reinforcing the innocent image he was trying to portray. Wolfe wanted everyone to believe he was just a concerned friend who happened to encounter a tragedy. However, this outward grief was in stark contrast to the strange actions he took after Fritz was officially confirmed dead. It didn't stop there. Mike Wolfe appeared to have fully exploited his knowledge of Frank Fritz's health condition to stage an incredibly sophisticated crime scene, concealing his cold-blooded poisoning. As longtime companions, Wolfe certainly knew about Fritz's medical history, including his previous stroke and underlying heart issues. It seems that he meticulously planned the use of fentanyl, a potent opioid, because its effects could easily exacerbate stroke symptoms or be mistaken for them. Wolfe even carefully arranged the scene to support the story of a natural death due to stroke complications. He positioned Fritz in a familiar resting place, erasing any obvious signs of criminal behavior. Instead of focusing on mourning and honoring his late companion, Mike Wolfe quickly and almost immediately took action to seize control of Frank Fritz's valuable antique collection and the intellectual property rights related to the American Pickers show. Less than 48 hours after Fritz's death, Wolfe contacted Fritz's attorney to express his intention to purchase the rights to Fritz's name and likeness for future commercial projects. Furthermore, Wolfe quickly gained access to Fritz's secret archive, where rare antiques were stored, many of which had never been featured on television. The dispute over Frank Fritz's will became increasingly complex and bitter as more details emerged. According to William Fritz, Frank's biological father, who filed a petition to invalidate the will, the entire estate worth nearly $6 million was left to Mike Wolfe, Frank's former close companion. This revelation immediately sparked a wave of suspicion and outrage among Frank Fritz's family and fans. As Frank's biological father and the only surviving member of the family, William Fritz had every reason to feel that the decision to leave the entire estate to a friend of his son, especially given his declining health, was highly unusual and suspicious. He had every right to question the transparency and voluntariness of the will, especially when allegations of a dark conspiracy and financial motives linked to Wolfe were presented in court during the murder trial. When it was revealed that William Fritz had filed a lawsuit, Mike Wolfe immediately responded by hiring a lawyer to defend Frank Fritz's final wishes. However, this move only deepened the suspicion about Wolfe's true intentions. Was he genuinely trying to uphold the wishes of his late friend? Or was he simply attempting to protect the massive fortune he was aiming to acquire through carefully calculated plans? If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, don't miss out. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any new videos about shocking cases, captivating stories, or other interesting topics. Don't forget to like the video if you find this content helpful and share it with your friends so everyone can explore it. Let's discuss in the comments. Share your thoughts on this case, or if you have any theories, we can analyze and discuss together. The core of the legal battle still revolves around one key question. At the time the will was signed, was Frank Fritz mentally competent enough to understand and make decisions? If the will is upheld, Mike Wolfe would automatically inherit a multi-million-dollar estate. This highlights the greed and cunning that prosecutors have emphasized throughout the proceedings. On the other hand, William Fritz is fighting to protect his son's estate, firmly believing that Frank would never have intended to leave everything to Wolfe, especially considering how distant their relationship had become in the final years of Fritz's life. These hasty actions and deliberate acts have revealed a deeper motive that completely aligns with the theory that Wolfe believed Frank Fritz no longer deserved their joint achievements. Evidence from Wolfe's personal diary also shows his anger and desire to eliminate Fritz in order to consolidate power and bask in the spotlight. Wolfe's late arrival at Fritz's house, his emergency call, and his grief now seem to be part of a complex plan to create an alibi. However, the contradictions in the forensic reports, Wolfe's suspicious internet search history and the dark content in his personal diary began to reveal the truth, causing Wolfe's facade to collapse and forcing him to face justice. Shortly after Frank Fritz took his last breath, a thorough search was conducted at Mike Wolfe's home and office. Detectives discovered a hidden safe containing prescription bottles with no labels. Subsequent analysis confirmed that these substances matched the toxic compounds found in Frank Fritz's body. What was even more shocking and infuriating was the content found in Mike Wolfe's personal diary, a document that revealed the darkest corners of his mind. These journal entries not only recorded petty conflicts, but also reflected a deep resentment and growing hatred towards Frank Fritz. The peak of this anger appeared in an entry written just weeks before Frank's death, with cold and venomous words. F thinks he can come back and reclaim half the attention. He forgets that without me, the show wouldn't exist. He became a burden. Now I only see one way to protect what I've built. These words not only reflect simple annoyance or jealousy between former colleagues, They reveal an extreme selfishness, an obsession with power and recognition so intense that Wolfe saw Fritz as an obstacle to be eliminated. By calling Frank Fritz a burden, Wolfe stripped away the dignity of his longtime partner, turning him into an unacceptable hindrance in his pursuit of fame. The trial of Mike Wolfe lasted 6 intense weeks, drawing widespread public attention across the United States. The prosecution meticulously built a comprehensive case, relying on numerous convincing pieces of evidence to indict Wolfe. The key point of the case was the autopsy report, which revealed a lethal concentration of fentanyl found in Frank Fritz's body, a drug that had never been prescribed to him and which contradicted the initial conclusion that the cause of death was complications from a stroke. Wolfe's internet search history also became undeniable evidence, showing that he had researched undetectable poisons and ways to stage a death to appear as the result of a stroke. The prosecution continued to present findings of unlabeled fentanyl bottles hidden inside a secret safe at Wolfe's home and office. Particularly condemnable was Wolfe's diary, filled with resentment, negative emotions, and a desire to eliminate Fritz, clearly indicating a motive. Additionally, security footage showed Wolfe's car near Fritz's house late at night, just hours before the emergency call was made, further raising doubts about Wolfe's claims. The prosecution also highlighted Wolfe's suspicious actions following Fritz's death, emphasizing his swift moves to gain control of his deceased friend's assets and intellectual property. Wolfe's online search history essentially incriminated him with cold questions like, "Can drug interactions causing a stroke be detected after death?" And "How can you make someone's death look like a stroke complication?" The prosecutor stressed that Wolfe coldly exploited Fritz's pre-existing health issues, turning them into the perfect cover for his crime. Former members of American Pickers also took the stand, recounting the negative shift in the relationship between Wolfe and Fritz in the years leading up to Fritz's departure from the show and the subsequent tragedy. A production assistant testified that she had accidentally overheard heated arguments about the show's future, with Wolfe insisting on having full creative control. She also recalled Wolfe saying that Fritz had lost his right to fair compensation after his health issues. Her testimony painted a picture of a fractured and unfair relationship. Other witnesses described Wolfe becoming increasingly authoritarian and controlling, frequently bad-mouthing Fritz to network executives and deliberately isolating him from the long-established antiques community. Perhaps the most emotional testimony came from Danielle Colby, who reluctantly took the stand for the prosecution. Struggling to hold back tears, she recounted confronting Wolfe about his treatment of Fritz. "I noticed Mike became obsessed with being the sole face of American Pickers," she testified emotionally. "When I asked him if he wanted to reconcile with Frank, Mike became defensive and angry, telling me to stay out of matters that didn't concern me." Colby also revealed that she had once discovered disturbing notes in Wolfe's office about Fritz's medication schedule, and when she confronted him, Wolfe coldly dismissed it, claiming he was just concerned about Frank's health. On the defense side, Wolfe's lawyers made every effort to portray him as a loyal friend who had tried to mend his relationship with Fritz before the tragedy occurred. They presented testimony from network executives who had publicly supported Fritz's efforts to recover. However, this narrative was quickly shattered by the candid testimony of Fritz's personal doctor. The doctor confirmed that although Fritz was concerned about his health, he remained optimistic about the future and even had plans to start an antiques business. More importantly, the doctor stated that he had never prescribed the type of drug found in Fritz's body, especially not in a lethal dose. This testimony dealt a heavy blow to Wolfe's defense, extinguishing his last hope. During cross-examination, cracks began to appear in the calm demeanor that Wolfe had tried to maintain. When directly asked if he had ever spiked Fritz's drink with drugs, Wolfe lost his composure, yelling at the prosecutor. He doesn't know what it feels like to build something from scratch, only to watch someone else enjoy the fruits of your labor and smile for the cameras while everyone thinks he's just as important as I am to the success of the show. This outburst forced Wolfe's legal team to request a brief recess, but the damage had already been done. Later, jurors revealed that this moment was a turning point in their deliberations, as it exposed the simmering anger that Wolfe had harbored for years. After Fritz left the show, Wolfe's financial motive became clear when forensic accountants took the stand to testify about unusual changes in his business structure. Just months before Fritz's death, Wolfe had quietly reorganized his companies to gain ownership of Fritz's intellectual property in case Fritz became incapacitated or passed away. He also purchased a $5 million business insurance policy, designating his company as the beneficiary of this enormous sum upon Fritz's death. Additionally, the prosecution revealed that Wolfe had established a series of shell companies without Fritz's consent and had secretly transferred valuable antiques into these entities, with an estimated total asset value exceeding $2 million. The jury deliberated for 4 hours before reaching their final verdict: guilty. When the judge sentenced Wolfe to life in prison without the possibility of parole, the courtroom erupted in chaos. Wolfe, who had maintained an astonishingly calm demeanor throughout the trial, suddenly leapt to his feet and screamed, "You don't understand. He's going to destroy everything. He's going to destroy my legacy." He charged across the defense table, scattering documents and knocking over a cup of water. Court officials rushed to intervene, but Wolfe continued to charge toward Fritz's family, swinging his arms violently before being subdued. The courtroom erupted in shouting and scuffling as Wolfe continued to resist fiercely. At one point, he grabbed an old walking stick, one of the trial's exhibits, and swung it like a weapon, striking a court officer on the shoulder. "I built the American Pickers." "It was my life's work," Wolfe screamed as 3 other officers wrestled him to the ground. The judge was forced to leave the courtroom as Wolfe continued to kick, writhe, and yell about betrayal while court staff tried to subdue him. Fritz's sister, who was present in the courtroom, was escorted out by security as Wolfe attempted to scream in her face. "I'm the one who deserves this. It's my show," he growled as he was handcuffed. One of the most shocking moments came when Wolfe turned to Danielle Colby, who was sitting among the witnesses, and screamed, "Tell them the truth! Tell them what Frank was really like!" Colby turned her face away, clearly in pain, while other crew members broke into tears. Documents presented during the trial showed that Wolfe had quietly isolated crew members from Fritz for years before Fritz's death, creating a deep rift within the production team, a wound that may never fully heal. Even as security officers struggled to restrain him, Wolfe continued shouting, revealing even more horrifying details. He was going to start his own show, he screamed. He told me I was washed up, that the network wanted him back. The judge's final statement was delivered in a heavy, tense atmosphere, just moments before Wolfe's outburst, as if foreshadowing the tragic ending. "Mr. Wolfe," the judge said sternly, "you portrayed yourself as a preserver of American history and culture, but in reality, you harbored hatred and murderous intent. You used your fame to preach the value of the past while plotting to take the life of the very friend who helped you build that foundation. Today, justice is served with a sentence of life imprisonment, not only for Frank Fritz, but for the millions of viewers who once trusted you." Immediately after the sentencing, the fateful moment arrived. Mike Wolfe, no longer able to maintain his calm facade, lunged across the defense table in an uncontrollable rage, marking his final public appearance before being taken away to spend the rest of his life behind bars. As the cold prison doors closed behind him, the last words he uttered in court continued to haunt everyone who witnessed them. "Goodbye, all of you." Was it the desperate cry of a man finally facing a deserved punishment? Or was it the final act, the last desperate ploy of a master manipulator? The answer may forever remain a lingering mystery in the eyes of the public and in the legacy he leaves behind. Mike Wolfe, 60, and Frank Fritz were once a dynamic duo, co-hosts of the reality TV show American Pickers, captivating audiences for years. The image of them traveling across various parts of the United States, exploring old houses and remote areas to uncover rare antiques, was always accompanied by fascinating historical stories. Their on-screen relationship, beloved by viewers, was built on a foundation of collaboration, a shared passion for vintage items, and moments of humorous banter and playful teasing. They were like the perfect pair, complementing each other with unique knowledge and experience that made the show even more engaging. Audiences were completely delighted by their natural interactions and sometimes mild disagreements, viewing these moments as an essential part of American Pickers. However, over time, signs of strain began to appear in their collaborative relationship. Beneath the cheerful scenes and entertaining bargaining moments, the tension between Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz gradually increased. Despite being longtime friends, their relationship started to deteriorate in recent years, especially after Frank Fritz stopped appearing on the show following season 21. The main cause of the rift was Fritz's health issues, along with differences in their working styles. Fritz had faced several serious health problems, including heart and back issues, which affected his ability to participate in the show. On top of that, tensions grew as Mike Wolfe seemed to want more control over the direction of the show. Mike frequently criticized Fritz in front of the producers, trying to isolate his co-host. After leaving the show, Fritz expressed feeling pushed out and treated unfairly. All these factors became the driving forces behind Mike Wolfe's decisive actions against Fritz. The case of Mike Wolfe sent shockwaves through the reality TV industry. American Pickers, a show that had attracted millions of viewers worldwide, now faced an uncertain future. The History Channel quickly removed all episodes featuring Mike Wolfe and issued a statement expressing shock and offering condolences to the Fritz family. Many major sponsors also withdrew their support, making the future of the show highly unstable. The family of Frank Fritz filed a lawsuit to gain control of his antique collection and intellectual property, stating they would preserve the legacy he left behind. At the same time, they also took legal action against the History Channel for allowing Mike Wolfe's misconduct. What was once an iconic show of American reality TV has now become a painful lesson about trust, reputation, and the consequences of jealousy. Fans everywhere are still in shock and mourning the collapse of a television icon. Mike Wolfe and Fritz, once close friends, have become symbols of a broken bond. From a show that celebrated history, American Pickers is now just a faint shadow of its former self, forever marked by a horrific case in the history of American television. Psychologists analyzing the case suggest that Mike Wolfe may have suffered from narcissistic personality disorder, a condition that could have worsened over time with living in the spotlight. Dr. Robert Keller, a forensic psychologist who followed the case, stated, "Although his actions are indefensible, this helps us understand the difference between his public image, which was very charming, and his hidden resentment. People with narcissistic personality disorder can be very charismatic and calm on the outside, but inside, they are filled with bitterness and a desire for revenge." It's possible that Fritz's departure from the show left a deep wound in Mike Wolfe. One of the most concerning aspects is how Mike Wolfe used his fame to manipulate public opinion. In the weeks following Fritz's death, he used social media to express fake sorrow while blaming his old friend for complications from a stroke, shamelessly exploiting the opportunity to promote memorial items for Fritz. This is not just a murder, prosecutor Sarah Donovan concluded. This is a calculated deception aimed at millions of loyal viewers mourning the man the defendant killed, only to exploit that pain for profit. Investigators discovered that over $1 million had been donated in the weeks after Fritz's death, with most of the money funneled into an account that only Mike Wolfe had access to. When Mike Wolfe faced a life sentence, viewers and former supporters struggled with mixed emotions, trying to reconcile the image of a passionate collector with the reality of a man who could commit murder. "We feel betrayed," said Robert Jenkins, a longtime viewer, his voice bitter. "We invited him into our homes every week. We believed in his simple passion for history. Now we realize it was all just a facade." Mike Wolfe's former co-stars also distanced themselves from him, expressing shock and calling for respect for the memory of Fritz. For the American Pickers crew, the tragedy continues. Testimonies in court revealed a divide within the team, with some still believing in Mike Wolfe's innocence, while others were fully convinced of his guilt. Danielle Colby, who testified for the prosecution, stated that she was taking a break from her television career to focus on healing. She requested privacy and hoped that the legacy of preserving antiques, which once brought people together, could continue despite the painful circumstances. While Mike Wolfe was sentenced to life in prison, the legacies of Mike Wolfe and Fritz live on, but in very different directions. Fritz, throughout his years working on American Pickers, left a lasting impression as a passionate collector with deep knowledge of antiques and a likable, humorous personality. He won the hearts of millions of fans with his genuine love for history and his ability to tell captivating stories behind each item. Fritz's legacy will always be that of a dedicated collector who inspired many to discover the value of old objects. Even after his passing, His smile and passion will live on in the hearts of those who admired him. On the other hand, Mike Wolfe's legacy has been irreparably tarnished, forever linked to the criminal actions he committed. While he initially played a key role in the success of American pickers as a smart, visionary entrepreneur in the world of collecting, the murder conviction has cast a shadow over all of his past achievements. Wolfe's legacy will forever be associated with betrayal, greed, and violence. The case of Mike Wolfe ended with a life sentence, and the world of reality television was forever changed. With the final conviction of Mike Wolfe, the truth about Frank Fritz's death was revealed, but the aftermath of the case still lingers. Have the secrets and suspicions truly been uncovered? This is just a part of the complex story. To continue following more shocking details, don't forget to return to our channel. If you found this video interesting and want to know more real and shocking stories, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you have your own thoughts or theories about this case, feel free to share them in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you. And if you found this video useful, please like and share it with your friends so everyone can join in the discussion. Your support means the world to the channel. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next videos.